we are here today for fireside chat. So I removed my jacket. It is going to be hot here. So, Ratan, we have been given, and this opportunity to talk about each other and our passion for design and, so many things. So, I always wondered how let's talk about our journeys. Can you recall your student days in architectural college and how you got into, introduced to steel, whether that was in college or later on? So something about that?
So thank you for having me. I just want a show of hands in terms of how many architects there are in the audience.
Many, 3, 4,
so we can
5,
claim minority rights. So this is lovely because normally the architects are just thronging and there are a couple of steel or structural engineers in the auditorium and we always talk too much. But here, I guess we have an equal opportunity.
Yeah. But I would have loved to see more architects, of course, here.
Yeah.
So, Avneet, next time we have to really make a list of architects whom to invite, and we should make special efforts to call them here. They can probably learn. In fact, the question I asked you about, what about your college days? I also visit so many architectural colleges in the capacity of guest lecturer or something. I see that most of the students are doing projects, which are, they fantasize about long spans and tall buildings and all that. But ultimately, they are not aware of what material is to be used. I have to go there and tell them this is not concrete, this has to be steel. So that is why I asked that question.
Yeah. So I think to answer your second question, why architects don't come, because they're very insular. Architects like to go to their own little conferences. They don't like to be exposed
Oh,
where they will be exposed.
Big conferences, so bigger than this.
They have big sponsors, so they have big conferences. So anyway, college for me was, I got into architecture accidentally because I was thrown out of St. Xavier's and my girlfriend was coming into St. Xavier's and the closest college to St. Xavier's was JJ School of Architecture. So that's how I pretty much started architecture. But I was quite fascinated because I was always very excited about physics and maths and structures, and therefore it got very exciting for me to see how applications could happen. And we had a great structural engineer teacher, Mr. Gokhale, who was really the inspiration and he made things beautifully visible to us in terms of structures. And that's pretty much how I probably fell in love with structure. As an architect, as a young architect, you don't get too much of an opportunity. But progressively through our practice, and I was sort of patronized, and I had a great opportunity to work with the greats like Shirish Patel and Dr. Nori, Srinivasachar, Ram. And with their backup and exceptional vision and pragmatic approach to structures, I think I got more and more fascinated working with them. And we started looking at railway stations. I was probably around 30 years old, not even 30 probably, when I started looking at my first railway station in Navi Mumbai. And progressively, it's been, ever since we've just been going station after station type of thing.
Yeah, but if I look at your first railway station, was it Kharghar?
No, my first railway station was actually Zuinagar.
Zuinagar, okay.
Yeah,
so because Kharghar, I remember, is a concrete structure. It's not a steel structure.
Yeah, so all the New Bombay railway stations are concrete structures.
Yeah.
But the excitement was there. Post that, we started looking at the metro stations.
That's right.
Delhi Metro, Dwarka line, the Noida line.
Yeah.
And that was exciting because we were trying to improvise existing station formats. And we spent a lot of our time technically doing value creation, value engineering, bringing costs down Obviously, our fees got cut because they were a percentage of the cost of construction. But I think we were very excited because on a 12 crore budgeted station, to name a number, we were able to bring those stations in at about 9 crores with no compromise. So it was very exciting to be able to do economies. And the exciting thing was there was probably 100 odd stations that were copied from that.
Right.
So there's a huge saving in that sense.
That is right. But this must be rare cases because people are talking about, Ashwini ji talked about huge infrastructure coming up and all that. We all are talking about that. But wherever I see concrete. You take metro girders, they are, concrete U girders. The stations are in concrete. Except for the roof, everything is in concrete. Railway stations, take railway stations, metro stations, bridges, everything is concrete. So where are we using steel in infrastructure?
So I think the basics was that it is true that earlier steel was substantially more expensive
Right.
than working with concrete. It also is steel was pretty much the prerogative of the structural engineers, and architects didn't foray into steel as an option for their design solutions.
Correct, that's right.
And with interaction, with exposure to great structural engineers and great exposure, what we had with Kamal and you on our structures, I think it was, inch by inch, bit by bit, trying to connect with steel as a material to express ourselves.
That's right.
Our first railway station was Rabale. Entire railway station was Rabale. The concrete platforms and substructures was done. And I think the architect and whoever was handling the project sort of ran away. And we were called in to repair the structure in the sense of get it finished. And that was exciting because we did the entire structure in steel, including cladding, including everything. So that was a huge fillip to us in terms of just the expression and what it could be done. And, Girish, like we say that if we get opportunities to design and experiment, I think that's pretty much what we need. Otherwise, it just stays on book record or just on paper.
That is right.
So that's from there onwards, it's pretty much
that's right.
expressing
But
yourselves.
because when architects start designing something, is it easy for them to imagine something in concrete because it can be molded into their imagination rather than steel, which the structure has to be formed with, prefabricated or straight long channels and pipes and all that. So formation of something could be more difficult to imagine than, imagining a molded structure. Is this the reason why you start thinking in concrete?
I don't think so. I mean, a lot of the young architects today are very exposed. In our day, I'm talking about the early 80s, late 70s, early 80s, there was not much exposure except through books and magazines or there was no internet, there was no stuff that is being published. Today, everything is accessible. I mean, every superstructure that we see, every iconic structure that we're seeing in the world is pretty much a steel component or a composite component structure. So the architects of today who are joining us and the younger architects are very, very ambitious about trying to use steel. So in that sense, I think it's the exposure that they have that allows them. If you look at, does concrete allow me to think differently or does steel establish challenges for me? I don't think that's the idea. I don't think that's valid at all.
Don't you think the disciplines are different? I mean, a concrete structure, if I want to translate into steel, it is not so easy. So the design of steel structure has to start from a different, with parameters, and concrete has to start with different parameters. They're two different disciplines. And an architect has to recognize this and then design the structures,
So we went through our most recent structure where I'm not going to name the structure because I don't want it to get into a bit of a controversy. But Girish and us, Kamal Hatkar and us were trying to design a structure for a steel company, and we decided to do it in steel. It was 100,000 square feet, 10-story high, a few parking floors, etc. And we said this is the ideal situation where we should be using steel entirely. And we worked on obviously only a steel option. And somewhere down the line, the project team came back and said, sorry, too expensive. And,
Yeah,
and
steel company saying this.
a steel
For their
company,
own
steel
office.
fabrication for their own office. Anyway, having said this, what was the differential? In a 50 crore investment, the differential was 3 crores. And we had to change our design to
That's
accommodate into a sort of, hybrid of steel and concrete. And I think the frustration level at that time was so high because
is right.
Kamal was just very excited about doing a completely steel structure, and what an
Yeah.
opportunity.
That is right.
And that's the structure where we started thinking in steel. We didn't talk about concrete at all. We didn't start the foundations, or we didn't start any structural inferences or design inferences in concrete at all. So I think that was, and here's the moral of the story is basically even a steel company, in spite of its entire futures depending on that, talked about a saving of 3 crores of rupees in percentages, So it was really disheartening for us. I think Kamal lost interest, and
Yeah, I know, I know.
he sort of,
That was quite
he
saddening,
was quite saddened about this, because this would have been probably one of his last structures that he was designing, yeah. But coming to the point, I think steel is offering us some tremendous, and today the price difference is very tight. And price difference by virtue of speed and cost of money and cost of time, if you take all that into consideration, I think steel works out to be a reasonably appropriate solution.
Right.
The exposure to our steel, and today the kind of sections of steel that are available, the kind of quality of steel that is available to us, I think is phenomenal. It's a question of allowing us.
Don't fully agree with you. As structural engineers, I would like to have more variety of steel sections. Sort of, you have that series. I mean, one dimension but different thicknesses. So you get, larger spectrum of optimized sections.
Yeah.
That production of those such sections must start in India, must be enhanced.
So we did the Sitco Exhibition Center in Vashi.
Yeah, correct.
I don't know if many of you have seen it, but that was fabulous because we worked with Badri Narayan of SPA at
Yeah.
that time, and we did these chevron columns, basically just V-shaped columns, pipe sections, 400 dia, but thicknesses of wall ranging from 6 millimeters to 40 millimeters.
That's right.
And we wanted to keep the dia constant at 400.
Yeah.
And the thickness varied like this for different loads, different stresses. And it was fascinating. And we said, this is fabulous. Tata's had just bought Chorus. Tata's was providing the steel. And we had to import all our steel.
Yeah.
And it was so sad because it could have been a pipe section that we could be manufacturing here.
That's
I
right.
agree with you.
Correct.
Yeah, another very exciting structure that we did, I was working with Schleich Bergermann from Berlin, and we were working on the signature bridge in the Yamuna.
That's right. I was about to come to that.
So the signature bridge, it's a very interesting structure. If you can Google it, you can see it. It's about, the column, the pier is about 1.5 times the height of the Qutub Minar. And the section on the ground, sitting on the ground on a spherical bearing of about 8 feet diameter, 2.4 meters diameter. The spherical bearing takes a load of 17,000 tons of steel, which is a 400 meter cantilevered cable stayed structure. And the thickness of that steel column, the pier, was 100 millimeters, not available anywhere in India. We had to go to China, have it fabricated specifically.
Right.
The components were made in China and shipped over here, each component weighing something like 400, 450 tons to go up to a height of 176 odd meters, 160 odd meters.
Yeah.
So
No,
yeah,
that is where we have to
availability-
reach, right? That is where we have to reach.
But what I'm hearing from the very short conversations here is that everybody is gearing up to meet
True.
the demand or productionize for consumption, for consumers,
That is right.
for structural engineers like you, for architects like us. And it's exciting times. I think it's going to be fun.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. I hope we don't miss that bus. See, if you remember, not very long back, I mean about 20, 30 years ago, when we used to go to Pune and Navi Mumbai, we used to see this Hardelia chemical plant,
Yes.
then London Pilsner refinery and all that brewery, and then RCF, Chembur. So all those structural, I actually thought they were beautiful structures, the structural steel, very disciplined design, supporting the vessels and pipe racks and all that. Now, today, I mean, and structural steel was identified with industrial structures in those days. Now, when you look at uh, the structures, people still associate structural steel with such industrial beauty. But what do you feel? I mean, what kind of aesthetic you would like to bring in? Is it possible to do it equally with the structural steel, matching with, concrete?
So
I mean, we are talking of aesthetics in structural
so
steel.
I think it's an appropriation of purpose. If I had to design a school, for instance, I could very well do it in a load-bearing structure.
Right.
If I was designing a multi-level school, I'd probably do it as a concrete structure. Easier to handle, easier to work with. If I'm doing a convention hall, for instance, or a convention or exhibition center, 50-meter span, 60-meter
Right.
span, I'd probably look at steel. Not probably, I would look only at steel.
Correct.
Uh, way
Nothing
back.
else is possible, I mean,
Yeah,
with
so,
that kind
so
of
today,
sleekness.
Yeah, so today, I mean, I think about 10, 15 years ago, we did this Surat Convention Center, Exhibition Center. And at that time, we did a 90-meter column-free span roof in steel, extremely light. And it stands today and it entertains the Surat public for garbas and parties and,
Right.
convocations and prathanas and things like that. So I think it's the appropriateness of the structure that you want, where you choose your material effectively.
That is
I wouldn't force fit steel where I could use concrete. I wouldn't force fit concrete where there's an option for steel.
That is
And
appropriate.
you have proved to us through all the calculations that, there's a marginal cost benefit ratio
That is right.
in that sense. But if we look at it holistically in terms of life cycle costs, if we look at holistically in terms of capex versus opex versus speed, I think steel is definitely
Yeah,
available.
also steel is a problem solver. If you remember that, big security office in Mazgaon Dock.
Yeah.
Now, the situation on the ground was so complex, a lot of cables and trenches and all that. And you wanted to have a column-free entry lobby area and all that. So there you beautifully gave me a truss,
Yeah.
and kept it exposed. I mean, you have expressed that trust so beautifully. So that kind of stuff, I think you are good at. That brings me to one of the projects you had conceptualized, SEAT corporate office.
Yes.
And it had this beautiful shape. And I don't know what is the interior of that you had conceptualized. Was it steel?
So
Tell me something
it
about
was a
that.
steel structure.
Okay.
It was a steel structure. I mean, we just picked up a symbolism of a tire,
Right.
because SEAT is a tire manufacturer, and effectively we sort of had to do it in steel because that was the only material that would have been available to us. But talking about the Mazgaon Dock security
Right.
building, I think we had no choice. We could not take column footings where we needed them because of the underground utilities. And we had no choice but to do 20-meter, 30-meter spans. And if I'm using steel, I should be proud of it, not
Yeah.
not cover it up and hide it. So I think the brutal aesthetic of the material
Yeah.
needs to be expressed.
That's right.
And brutality is not really a negative thing.
Oh, not at
It
all.
can be very, very beautiful and appealing. So I think that's,
Yeah. and something that is purposeful and proportionate to its function,
Absolutely.
then it definitely looks good. The aesthetics is inbuilt. It is intrinsic.
Absolutely. Yeah.
We don't have to really give some member here and member there and make it aesthetic.
So I'm a very practical architect and very down to earth, if I may say
I
that
know,
about myself, because I mean it's not about मैंने सोचा था and I want this kind of edifice to happen. I'd rather solve my problem first.
Right.
Design is a problem solving strategy or a problem solving profession. And if I can't solve the problem and I'm doing it only for the aesthetics, I don't think it would sit right with me. So I think the more important thing is to get a good solution that fits for the purpose of the function. And everybody, a lot of architects try to, everything they could think of, they try to put into that one project, which is the opportunity on the table.
As if there is no next project.
As if there is no next project, or as if this is the only, place in the sun. So I think that's a very important aspect where you can edit out what is best suited for that
That is
particular
right,
project.
right.
Yeah.
So while you know the benefits of using steel sections, long spans and sleeker sections for columns and struts and all that, are you aware of the complexities that a detailing engineer or structural engineer goes through to, for designing the connections, to give you those sections that you have in mind? Are you aware of that, or you just throw a challenge, देखो तुम्हारा काम है, आप देख लो?
So if we talk about the Sitco Exhibition Center, normally a project would take about 300 to 400 drawings, all inclusive, to do about 4.5, 5 lakh square feet of space. We had 4,000 year of hardcore training about how it's done.
Correct.
And the gun to my head challenge was that everybody had said, this structure is not possible to be built. And I mean, what more motivation does one need to say कि boss करके दिखाऊंगा?
Correct.
Yeah. And having said that, I think the biggest challenge, because there were huge issues about costs, huge issues about contractors, huge issues about, okay, boss, tujhe, why do you want to do this damn thing? Yeah, why don't you just do a simple, straightforward rectangle and use the damn thing and we can finish it off in a hurry? But I think from an iconic perspective, and to suit the site, to suit the sustainability components, to get a gold LEED rating,
Right.
IGBC for one of the biggest common structures or public structures, and for the utility of what it would do for Navi Mumbai and Vashi, I think it was very important that we finish this structure.
Absolutely.
And that's where we rolled up our sleeves and said, okay, boss, at any cost, whatever it costs us in terms of time, effort, rework, I think we just applied our minds and got the damn thing done.
Now, you mentioned contractors, and sometimes there are challenges, some things are not possible for contractors to achieve the way we think. Reasons could be anything. I mean, there is a lack of appropriate equipment, resources, the skills with their team or whatever it is. So in such situations, I think you may have to rethink on certain aspects of your designs, maybe connection designs or some shapes of the members. So such challenges must have come to your practice.
So the challenges were on an everyday, all the time basis,
Yes.
Girish. The exciting role that I had to play was to keep the team together. Okay, from the structural engineers to the young architects who were doing the drawings, to the simulations that we were doing, to to what we were looking at as feedback from Tekla, the models, and without compromising on what we were doing. So in fact, CalZip did the roofing for me, and I think they've never ever done a roof like this before, and I've decided that they're never ever going to do a roof like this again. Because it was curved in several directions,
Yeah.
curved in plan, curved in elevation,
Correct.
and in various degrees. So I think the important thing was to keep the team motivated correctly and show them the sort of the goal at the end,
Right,
and
right.
what that would mean to us.
But what about your own team? I mean,
So my team was a young, very, very confident and very, very hardworking team. So many nights, many days, we just sat down and cracked everything. I mean, we just broke the problem into smaller bits and cracked them out. So it wasn't something that we were concerned about. There was no question of failure. We just decided that it had to be done.
right.
And we had Badri working with us as a structural engineer from SPA, Shirish Patel's office. And it was fabulous because that the enthusiasm and the energy of youth was also very, very infectious.
That is right.
And
right.
helped
No,
us
of
get
course,
this
it
thing
must
through.
have come from Shirish ji and
Yeah, absolutely.
Dr. Noori. I mean, we are going to felicitate them tonight
Right.
for a Lifetime Achievement Award. So, of course, they have done great work and they must have induced a lot of, knowledge in you as well. I really want to come back to that college syllabus again. It's in my mind, And you mentioned that things are not taught in college, but as you grew up as architect, you started picking up, things from here, there, some structural engineers and all that. I was shocked, some time ago when IIT Bombay, I'm literally stating the fact. I'm a product of IIT Bombay, BTech, MTech, and now I came to know that in IITs, in BTech, civil engineering, there is an option of learning either concrete engineering or steel engineering. I mean, I was shocked. A civil engineer must know both these things, right? Or any other material, construction material, they must be taught. And then when he goes further into practice, then he should know which material to be used for what, construction or design and all that. Now things have come to such an extent, and the reason they want to reduce the burden, the education burden on the students. They want to lighten the burden. And this is really something that we have to tackle. As a veteran in the industry, don't you think we have to literally go back to universities and colleges and, impress upon them what they need to learn? And because now we know how the industry is being run and the product that is coming out of these colleges and universities, they are not useful to us as such. So instead of giving them training on the jobs and spending so many years in training them, bringing to the level that that is useful for the industry, don't you think we should do that?
So I think that's a separate conference, quality of education and what you teach, etc. But, I think in today's day and age of specialists and super specialists, the application that we had, I mean, in our college, we had a 5.5-year syllabus. Today, we're talking about creating a college syllabus for architects to qualify in 3 years. And to me, even 5.5 years taught me nothing, taught me basics, okay? And then it's practice of another 10, 15 years that allows you to say, okay, hey, I'm qualified to do something. So I think it all depends on the student and the take home. It all depends on the learning.
But at least they should be exposed to things.
They should be. Yeah. And that's the basics that we talk about. I mean, in architectural structure, we talk about basic design and color and texture and form and stuff like that. I guess in structural engineering, you talk about simple situations using all sorts of materials.
That's
basically,
right.
the principles of structure.
That is right.
And if that is being compromised, then that's a problem.
Yeah.
But maybe the structural engineer goes out and becomes a super specialist in steel or a super specialist in concrete. I mean, we're talking about, we're just now experimenting with hybrids. We're experimenting with composites, okay? Where we're talking about carbon fiber reinforcement for small
right.
bridges
That's
and
right.
spans.
Correct.
So, I mean, there's a constant progressive situation, Girish.
That is right.
It's very difficult to say, this is right and this is wrong. And I guess as veterans, like you say, our responsibility is to see a sound education, sound principles of education, sound
Right.
principles of structure.
That's right.
And yeah, we missed it terribly when we talk about younger architects who join us. They have no clue about what they're doing, why they're doing, how they're doing, except for
Right.
sir ne ye bola tha and humne
Correct,
kiya tha,
correct,
you know. So that's the sad part.
No, so I think about 3-4 years ago, when I was chairing this organization, I had mooted a proposal to start some professional vocational courses for students through this organization. I think we should take it up for
Absolutely.
architects as well as engineers. And Amit, we should rethink on that, you know.
Yeah. That,
So-
that, that skill set is extremely critical. Not the skill as much as the exposure to what is
Exposure,
possible.
yeah,
I
exposure.
think the awareness and exposure is very, very critical for the kids to make up their minds about where they want to go or what they want to do.
That is right. That is right. So I think of course, audience came to know what you think about steel and how you are using steel. So what's the future of your practice? Do you think you will be designing more and more steel structures, looking at the opportunities that will be offered to us as the India is growing in all aspects?
So, like I said, I'm repeating myself, that the appropriateness of the material or the construction technology or technique is critical. So,
Right.
if I was doing, like today, I'm experimenting on smaller scale timber structures.
Ah,
Okay. And I'm finding it very difficult to find structural engineers who work in timber. And I'm surprised, because that was what should have been taught in college in the
that's
first
right.
place.
That's right.
And we're doing a full cycle after 40 years, 45 years of practice.
Yeah.
I want to go back to timber and try and experiment with timber.
Oh,
to see-
that's nice.
To see where it's going. But scale is critical. I would not do a 7-story building in timber, though it's possible.
Yeah.
But I would definitely use timber, and I'm taking on smaller
Thank you.
projects.
That's like
I'm-
fireside.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm taking on smaller projects just to experiment and to sharpen our senses or our sensibility in using a different sustainability material,
Correct.
afforestation, the timber, afforested
right.
timber.
Yeah,
Potential for steel is phenomenal. I mean, you don't need to attend a Steel Day lecture to understand the potential of steel, its construction,
Absolutely.
its role in an Indian context. And
I
it
think
can only get
problems
bigger.
of fire and corrosion need to be addressed also.
Problems of fire and corrosion, which actually make the steel structure much more expensive.
That is right.
Yeah, vermiculite
That is the
paints and
add-on
this and
cost,
that.
you know.
Those are add-on costs which we need to be extremely conscious of.
Right.
The structural engineer doesn't tell you that. So you need to know that after using steel, you have to passivate it, or you have to look at it from a fire protection perspective.
That is
And maintenance.
Yeah.
I mean, people forget that you need to maintain the steel.
Right. People will maintain
Yeah.
their car regularly, but not maintain the
Not
building.
the structures, yeah.
That's
so
the
so
problem.
that's obviously a bit of a problem.
Yeah. People think once the building is built, it's for 4 generations.
Yeah.
Nothing is to be done.
So that's where we come in with life cycle costs
That's
as to see the implications.
That is
Steel
right.
would be a little more maintenance, but it gives you the beauty and
But
and
have
the-
you experienced this life cycle cost concept any time? Because now you are here for 30, 40 years in the business. We are talking and imagining of life cycle cost, and
So we, in a lot of the structures that we did originally, I mean in the early 80s and 90s, we saw a lot of stuff happening. A lot of my steel work is pretty much related to infrastructure, which is technically supposed to have 50, 80, 100 year,
Asset number, yeah.
100-year lifespans. But in the smaller structures, we've realized that there is an element of life cycle costing.
okay,
15, 20 years ago, I started a company called Eden, which is Educated Environments, which deals with sustainability. Too early for its time. Nobody knew how to spell sustainability at the time. But it showed us, and we did a lot of analysis in terms of how and what and where and why. And looked at the planet when people didn't know about the 1 degree and didn't
Right,
know about
right.
global warming and stuff. And at that time, we started looking at debris from broken down structures. We looked at recycling of timbers. We looked at recycling of materials, how things could be done. And it was very exciting, because that's a completely new way of looking at the science of building.
Correct.
And it can be used extremely effectively. We have some serious issues on the sustainability situation in terms of disposal, battery disposal, software hardware disposal, stuff like that. But I think there's a lot of recycling that can happen, and steel being the most recyclable material, I think
Yeah,
has
but
its-
I asked that question precisely for this reason. So I had to shift a factory building from Mumbai because Mumbai is losing its industrial, nature. It had to be shifted to New Mumbai some few years ago,
Yeah.
Where not New Mumbai is also not industrial. But in those days, I had to dismantle the factory and take it to New Mumbai. When we started doing that, we saw that we could not use the same sections because there was corrosion and so that recycling concept, it's nowhere. I mean, you are losing the material to corrosion, it's turning to earth, and unless you maintain it, where is the recycling of that material? So when you calculate recycling cost or life cycle cost, these things have to be kept in mind. Otherwise, you are losing that opportunity.
No, it's a very valid point you're bringing up, because, if you have a car, for instance, and don't maintain it, you
Correct.
should not expect it to deliver the service that you bought it for.
Absolutely.
The same way as if you have a steel structure and you don't maintain it, you shouldn't expect it to deliver,
That it's
and-
true for everything. I mean, you have to maintain concrete structure as well.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, that's the argument. Steel structure only need to be maintained. No, any kind of structure has to be maintained. So that's not an additional cost for steel structure. We have to tell them.
True.
So great. Actually, Hafiz contractor was supposed to join us, but last night he called me and he said he had a back sprain and he could not get up.
Right.
So he has wished us well and he has apologized for his absence. But I think we went great and
Thank you.
I could get some insights from your.
Hafiz would have been an interesting perspective, because
Yeah.
the number of structures he does, not
does.
the size as
That
much
is
as the volume, the quantities.
Yeah.
I think that's a phenomenal perspective to have.
That is right.
You know?
And he was more interested in talking about high-rise buildings in
Yes,
steel.
yes.
And when I said the topic is aesthetics in structural steel, he said, "Oh no, don't take the topic. Let's talk about high-rise buildings." And he had a lot of, things to talk about high-rises, how to build.
Yeah, but I think you have a 2-day conference of stalwarts and experts in the systems, Thomas Etty and,
Oh, yeah.
all the others coming in to talk about.
No,
new
we have
technique.
great 2 days ahead,
I think
definitely.
it's a lovely-
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think,
Thanks,
thanks Ratan, and agreeing to come here. And I really once again thank Avneet and Amit to have called us both here. Although we are doing many projects together, we don't meet. And,
We should meet more often off stage.
yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks a
Thank
lot.
you very much. Thank you.